What's going on, everybody? What a crazy day. Lots going on with the trade deadline. Hard to even keep up with all of it. What does it mean for DFS? We'll get into all that. I'm still editing and changing lineups and mixing things around because we really don't know some of my favorite stacks like Minnesota. I don't have a lineup. We don't have a lineup yet. We don't know what's happening with Detroit. Not that I love the stack, but I don't mind getting some pieces there. It looks like the Royals just traded Merrifield. Oh my God, it's just a lot going on. So in order to kick, again, that's a little bit of a boost to a guy I like already in Giolito, even though I think that there's reason to be skeptical. I am absolutely going to take some shots with Giolito. I'll start off with what I've got for right now. I have the Twins, then the Mets, then the Braves, then then St. Louis are my main stacks. I'm also going to put a couple of Texas stacks in, mostly mini stacks, because the lineup came out not the way you want. No Adolis Garcia. So you do have some really cheap options if you want to do a cheap mini stack against a guy in Jordan Lyles who can get blown up at any point. So I don't mind if you want to do that as well. What's up to my man K9 in chat? Pitching wise, as of right now, I'm much higher than the field on Wainwright. I think that there's opportunity for him to have a big game here. His numbers this year have been sort of up and down, but if you look at the actual matchups, he's pitched really well against the bad offenses, and Chicago certainly qualifies for that, and it's probably going to be even worse today. I am very high on Strider and Burns. I have less Gaussman than maybe some other people do, but I do have some Gaussman. I have Javier a little bit ahead of Gaussman on this particular slate, so that's where I'm at with my pitching. I went through my stacks, individual positions all over the place. Catcher, Sal Perez is head and shoulders the number one for me. And you could mix in Gary Sanchez in your stacks, Nito for value in those stacks, although I don't love Nito in general because he just doesn't have any power at all. I have a little bit of Cal Raleigh, a little bit of De Valoria for another minimum cost option from Texas. And I think you can play Melendez. I already mentioned Perez, but I think Melendez as well. First base, Matt Olson, Pete Alonso, Rowdy Tellez, Vinny Pasquantino. That's pretty much my first base position on DraftKings. Second base, Polanco, Semien, Jonah Bride for value, or Bride and Mashin is going to depend on where they're hitting in the order and what's happening tonight. But we might want to take some low owned cheap A's. Well, I don't even know if they'll be low owned, but some cheap A's to try to against whoever the hell Angels are going to end up rolling out there now. Paul DeYoung is becoming a priority for me. God, it's hard to prioritize a guy who's hitting 140. He has homered in back-to-back games, though. One of the hottest guys in baseball. He's 2K on FanDuel, 3K on DK. I think he makes perfect sense as a filler piece at shortstop. I didn't mention Luis Arias. I like him, and I like Colton Wong at second base also. I forgot to mention those two guys, but I like Arias at third. Bichette's price is low enough where I don't mind playing Bichette as a one-off at shortstop. I love Lindor. Seager's probably my favorite. Play Correa in the stacks of Minnesota, and that's my shortstop position. Outfield, Buxton and Acuna are my priorities. I'm playing a lot of Azuna in my Brave stacks. I'm playing a lot of Cole Calhoun, and then I just need to see who's the hell's playing and what's going on with this situation for the Twins, because I've got a lot of Twins guys, but I don't even know who the hell's going to play, including Buxton. Yelich, Nick Gordon. I think Nick Gordon may end up hitting higher in the order today if we have no Kirilloff and everything. So I do think I'll keep an eye on that, but it's going to depend on where they're hitting. Hard to break this down. It feels like an NBA type of situation. Right? It's hard to break it down without knowing all these things. Obviously, Nimmo and Marte in your Met stacks. I forgot, if I didn't mention that. Cole Calhoun as the value option along with Nick Gordon for me. So that's a rundown of what I'm doing. Give us your guys' takes. Tell us about, if you want to talk trades, we can talk about that. I'll be here till 3:20 or 6:20 Eastern. And we'll talk through. Ask any questions. Pop in your favorite stacks. Tell me what you like about mine, what you don't like, and we'll go through it. All right. Thor is gone. No Syndergaard anymore. Whit Merrifield to the Jays. Love that move for the Jays, but come on, Jays. At some point, don't you think you can try and get one left-handed batter? They don't. Why can't you get one lefty that can hit? They just can't seem to find one out there anywhere, no matter what they do. I do think it's a great guy for them to have. It's going to make that lineup much tougher, but man, they have some real bad stuff going on with the lefties there. They cannot quite get a lefty to fill out what is an awesome, awesome lineup with just incredible righties up and down the roster, especially with Merrifield there now. I mean, just absolutely locked and loaded. For all you guys out there, I mean, the Padres, I think obviously what they've done is phenomenal. I was not that surprised that they put all their effort out there to try and get these guys. I was surprised at how many they were able to get. And I think that, for a team that's struggled offensively this season, they've been, competitive because of how good that pitching staff is. They're not the Dodgers, but they are, next year with Tatis and Soto and Machado, it's hard not to think these guys are pretty strong. So they're obviously the big winner of the day. I think it's pretty clear. And I think that I don't think anybody could really question it. It's pretty remarkable to be able to put that kind of talent around that already stellar pitching staff and an offense that somehow has done well enough, which I don't even know how, but they have. What's up to my man Eric Johnson in chat? We also got Rhodey in there saying, let's get it. Don't forget that Rhodey is always my reminder. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. We appreciate it. The Yankees love tonight. I think the Yankees are interesting. Yeah, I have a ton of Judge one-offs just because I'm not going to stop playing guys who just hit home runs every single day. But I do think that the Yankees are completely viable. I like Gilbert a ton as a pitcher. I think he's going to be very, very good. But with young pitchers, we know there's a high range of outcomes. And if he's not getting those strikeouts, if he's not getting the calls, there is definitely a potential for the Yankees to hit some home runs off of him. I mean, he will give up some bombs. He's not gonna like usually go crazy. He sort of seems to have gotten his control issues a little bit more under control, but he's also given up more power since then. But I think the Yankees are completely viable, and I think they're viable on both sides, but on FanDuel especially. I think that getting them in there at really low ownership is a really interesting way to play. I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. If I was playing a bunch of lineups, and by the way, they're not that far behind the lineups I play. I just try to keep my core. So that way I can have multiple avenues of trying to get the right 5 in there or 4 in there. Better stack on DK, Milwaukee or Minnesota? It's a really good question. I like Minnesota personally. I'm siding with Minnesota, but I have no problem if you want to argue with me and tell me Milwaukee's is better. I think they're both very strong stacks. I somehow it seems like Milwaukee is going to actually be more popular. And not that you need to worry too much about ownership, they're pretty close in ownership, I would say. But I think Milwaukee might be a tiny bit more popular. It depends on what lineup comes out for Minnesota. And every minute that the lineup doesn't come out for Minnesota, the less likely that Minnesota is going to that we're going to know anything about Minnesota. That people are going to play Minnesota. And I'm just double checking to make sure that Minnesota didn't. Yeah, they haven't released it yet. Still, you might get Jake Cave in there in the middle of the order as possible at 2.2. Easy pivot off of Kirilloff if you were going to do that. Oakland or Dodgers? Oakland is just I would be using the value pieces. I don't know if I'd be making a full 5-man stack out of them. We don't know who's pitching against them yet. So without knowing who's pitching against them, I guess it'll probably be Junk or Yunk, however we're supposed to pronounce it. But he actually was pretty awesome last time out. By the way, that would be an interesting tournament play if you wanted to take a really weird shot. Yunk has struck out eight in KC his last time out in 5 innings, 5,700. If you wanted to go double pay down, I think that might be interesting. I'm not finding myself with the Dodgers or A's much, but I don't mind either of it, especially the A's value. I think you could easily make an A's mini stack and feel really good about it. But I don't know if I want to put a full 5-man out there on this kind of a slate. I don't think it's terrible. I just think it's not a great hitter's park, although it's playing better today because it's 78 degrees with some wind blowing out. The Giants and Dodgers, I just don't feel like that wins the slate enough for me, especially with the lineup the Dodgers might roll out there where you have Alberto in the middle, Trace Thompson, who's no longer 2K anymore. Austin Barnes should be in there. So it's not the strongest Dodger lineup, but I do think Mookie, Will Smith are really, really strong plays in their own right. So Phillies for me. No, I'm not playing any Phillies. I think that's an interesting route because I usually hate to pick on the best pitchers on the slate, but if there was a kind of pitcher who could get lit up, it would be Strider. I mean, look, you have a young guy who's still figuring his things out. Philly's a really tough team. They're very patient. They take a lot of pitches. I don't have any problem with it, Eric. Actually, usually I would be more against it because I know you just love to always pick on the popular pitcher and take the other side. And it works a few times a year. Even when it works, you still got to get it right. And it's got to be the best stack. I know you were trying to brag about the Atlanta one last time. Atlanta was the 7th or 8th highest scoring team, and there was only 16 teams in play. And it was just not the right play against Nola, in my opinion, last time. I do think this play with Philadelphia is more viable, and I think it's a really nice YOLO stack for a large field tournament, especially. So I actually can completely support that one. Oakland's going to start to be real popular. The interesting part is that as bad as Syndergaard has been at times, it actually seemed like a good matchup for Oakland. Anyway, you have a couple guys that run. You have Laureano, you have Jonah Bride. You could have gotten some stolen bases out of those guys. Now with Junk, I don't have to do a little research. Nobody's in baseball is as bad at holding runners on as Syndergaard is. So I can't imagine that Junk would be that. But I probably not as good a stolen base matchup is what I would say. That's the one thing. Let's see. Burns might disappoint. You know what? It's always possible someone could disappoint. There's no logical reason why Burns should disappoint. And we get this every time Burns pitches. I feel like everybody's like, oh, I don't like Corbin Burns. I don't want to play Corbin Burns. Okay, you have no need to play him. There's tons of other options. All I will point to is that Burns basically has had one start that you actually wouldn't want in his last 10. This is one of the best matchups he's faced. He's had a much tougher matchups, and he's been really good against them. So I actually think the ownership on Burns is probably a little bit too low, if you had to ask me right now. But could he get burned? Sure, it could happen. I know Eric hates Burns. I don't know why. I don't know what he ever did. All this guy does is go out there and absolutely crush. Now I'll tell you what. The one team I would stack Burns against Burns is the Dodgers. The Dodgers match up pitcher profile wise like perfectly with Burns. He's really good though. Like there's no reason we have to try and just say, okay, well, this guy's really good, so I'm not going to play him. Especially when like he could easily be like 60% owned on a slate like this, and he's like 30%. If it was Garrett Cole, it would probably be like 60%. And Garrett Cole has more blow up ability than Burns does. Burns just doesn't get rocked, and even if he gives up some runs, he's going to end up striking out 10 guys for you almost all the time. That's just what he does. I like his over prop too today. So I think Junk is a really interesting large field tournament play. I like would be a very strong word. I think things have to go completely his way in order for it to work out for him. And that means like giving up nothing. But if he gives up any runs and the game's close, I could see him like pitching 2 innings. So that's it. I don't have an exact pitch count for DeGrom. I will just tell you that right now, that is the guy I'm fading. He's thrown 12 innings in 4 starts in the minor leagues. So they have no motivation, no reason to let him throw more than like 65, 75 pitches. And at 75 pitches, I agree. Like I can argue, okay, that actually is enough for Burns against this Nationals team. But is it? And also, like, is he still not fully back? Is it even going to be less than that? None of the things would surprise me. Now, he could get through 5 innings and 50 pitches. We just saw it the other day. Sheets was really mad at himself for not playing more of the, I can't remember who the Seattle pitcher, maybe have been Gilbert that day. No, who was it coming back from the injury? Yeah, anyway, I mean, anyway, that's where I am. 90% Strider on Sabres. That does seem a little bit high. So if you like Philly, how much Strider would I play? So I guess to answer that question, I'm playing Strider at about 30% right now. Maybe end up a little bit higher than that, but it's about 30% for me because I like the other pitching options we have. I like Strider and Burns. I'll be with the field basically on those guys. I'm going to be below the field on Gausman, right with the field on Javier, above the field on Giolito, above the field on Wainwright. And that's pretty much my pitching pool on DK. That's pretty much all the guys I'm looking at. I think if you wanted to get creative, as much as I hate Jordan Lyles, that Texas lineup, you could take a shot with Jordan Lyles. You could take a shot with Cole Irvin, and you could take a shot with Jason Junk, assuming that he is in fact starting, which is what we've got right now. But you never know with these Angels. They do that weird stuff all the time, even after they change their manager. The other get weird guy would be Spencer Howard. But I am probably not going to touch those guys. And then if you want to play at the top and you want to just get a little different, you don't like any Burns or Gausman, then you could probably try and throw in the Tristan McKenzie, who's always got the massive upside just because of the nature of the way that he pitches. Cole Irvin, fine. He's totally fine. I would prefer the guys around him for about $1 million. So if you're playing Cole Irvin versus you play tournaments and you're playing Cole Irvin at 800 more than a guy like Giolito, Cole Irvin has had 1 game in his life that Giolito could easily have, and it was happened to be 2 starts ago. Cole Irvin is a guy who, when he's on, is usually going to get you around 20, and he's been good in his defense. I think he's fine. But maybe you would play him with a guy like Giolito then or something. I just don't see him with the same upside in general, although this Angels lineup may give us enough reasons to play him. I mean, I think that's fine. You can go that route. I'm just not going to spread out to 100, talk about we can make a pretty good case for basically every pitcher on the slate, except outside of Arena, outside of whatever San Diego does. Outside, I think Chris Archer was a guy who was popping earlier for people. I'm not doing that. Matt Manning, I wouldn't touch. Brad Keller is probably fine actually against the White Sox, but I'm probably not going to play. I'm not going to play him. Logan Gilbert is one of the more talented guys who's going to have 0% ownership. So you could argue that. You could argue for pretty much like almost every pitcher today because of how many lineups are kind of decimated from this trade deadline. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep my guys tight, and that's where I'm at. So that I agree with what Eric's saying here about Gio playing KC, because as much as I like Giolito, I am absolutely on board with playing the other side of that. Like, just I mean, for me, it's more of a mini stack, but play a Perez, Pasquantino, and whoever else you want. I got to take a double check of the KC order, because I did know that, Witt was traded, obviously. So obviously he's probably, they announced the lineup and they had it out because, okay, I got to figure it out. I don't know what their lineup is. So Melendez would be another guy, Hunter Dozier, Nick Pratto is like minimum. I think that's totally viable to stack against Giolito. What I would say is you do have winds blowing in from right field at almost 10 miles an hour. Takes a little bit of the love for the lefties away from me against Giolito, and that's what you want to do against Giolito. So it's kind of hard for me. The Kyle call. I don't know which Kyle. Did I miss somebody named Kyle here? Yeah, Slick, let me know that you're talking about there, because I'm curious who you mean. Yeah, I do think Saber, no problem to Will Owsley. I do think, Saber's going to love Strider. Strider's tremendously underpriced for his upside. Like, he could easily be 10-2 here, and I would probably still play him at about the same percentage of ownership, to be honest with you. Brewers lineup finally came. Oh, Lyle. Yeah, the Jordan Lyles thing. I am playing some Texas stacks for what it's worth, but I do think Jordan Lyles is an interesting enough option with the way that lineup looks. So I don't mind if you want to go that route, or if you want to go the Urban route, because of how bad their opposing lineups are. Let's take a look at what we got for Milwaukee today. I'm going to grab it really quick, because I was hoping we would have this one earlier so I could talk through it, because I want to see how it shakes out versus how the Twins lineup ends up shaking out. Because I may just do that. I may just pivot right over to them. I don't have the Milwaukee lineup yet, so let me know if you've got it. If you don't mind typing it into chat. Otherwise, we can talk about other stuff until we get out of here in a few minutes. No Buxton is in tonight. Oh my God, is he out? I didn't even see now with no. Now I'm gonna have to change everything. I probably will still play some Twins, but I am much lower. I'm looking at the new lineup now. For what it's worth, I like the 2 through 5 a ton, and then you could throw in Jake Cave if you want to. But man, you're asking for a lot to try and win it on a massive slate. So all of a sudden, Minnesota just would down a little lower. I'm going to have some stacks, but they're definitely not my priority anymore. Thoughts on the Rockies? They're Papillon Sabres. I can't speak to the Rockies. I don't even know what San Diego's doing for sure for pitching. I don't trust what they've said so far. They're still in the middle of the first game. A bullpen game for the Rockies on the road is pretty much a recipe for something you shouldn't be doing in general. I think San Diego would be the better team to stack. I have 0.0 interest in the Rockies on the road. Has anybody ever won with the Rockies on the road? I know they had a couple of big outings before, but has anybody ever won a tournament with the Rockies on the road? I just don't remember it happening. Maybe in Arizona when they used to have the roof open at 100 and when it was 100 degrees, but I don't know. I can't imagine them ever being a really strong play on the road. I do like the Padres for what it's worth, assuming that Urena is in fact starting, and we'll get the official word on that hopefully before lock. I don't know if we will though. So Yelich, Adames, Tellez, McCutchen, Wong, Renfroe, Arias, Caratini, Taylor. I like that lineup. So I do think that now you're talking about a spot where I think you do want to get some more exposure even to Milwaukee, which is what I'm probably going to do once we get off. Final questions before we get out of here. How much Braves am I getting to? Do they seem chalky? So chalky, I don't think you should overly worry about ownership on these slates unless teams get really inflated and are really, really high owned. And as of right now, you don't have any Brave that I'm looking at other than Kuna, who's projected to be above like 10, 12%. Some sites have some different things, but I don't see the Braves as being too chalky at all. Absolutely not. No reason. You don't need to do this stuff that's all crazy. You don't need to get nobody who's going to be owned. I mean, look at Aaron Judge. You just every day you kind of need him to win. That's a great example of. I just don't think on 13 game slates when there's no chalk to really go that crazy. I mean, the highest owned player. I'm going to take a quick look at my tools and go to my SaberSim real quick. What do we think the highest owned? And I'll take Sheets' projections into account as well. 5 new messages from, let's see who else is out. Basically everything you guys have included me on. Harrison Bader, all that. Syndergaard, okay. All right, let's see what I've got here for ownership for hitters. So on the entire slate, the highest projected player is 15% on DraftKings of any team. I don't have to worry about ownership too much when that's the case. It's just simple as that. Like, it's, yeah, you could say don't play the Mets. The Mets are the chalk. That's the chalkiest team. Eric, you keep saying everyone's on him. What does that mean? Who's on him? Just because people talk about him does not mean everybody's playing them. You know what I mean? It's not. It's inaccurate information. It's, what do we think the ownerships are actually going to be? Do you think so? If you really think that because Austin Riley is 12% owned that you don't want to play him, then you're doing it wrong, in my opinion. And I mean, currently on Saber, according to SaberSim, not one Brave above 8% owned right now. So I don't agree with you guys on that one. While I think they'll be higher than 8%, I do not think that it'll be high enough to where you should be fading these guys. Anyway, guys, I got to run and finish my lineups and try and see who's playing. I will be in Discord to help you out. Check out Rody's article. If you want anything else, he'll be in Discord. We can answer questions as much as we were able to before lock, and then after lock for the games that we don't have lineups out for yet. Good luck to everybody tonight. I hope you crush it. And don't forget to like before we get out of here. And we will hopefully see somebody take something down. Post it in our Discord if you do.